Professional practice of accountancy. An overview. Accountancy is a novel and a prestigious profession. It has its own body of principles, theories, assumptions, conventions, and ethical standards, and has played a great part in nation building and development. So why is the practice of accountancy considered a practice of profession? A profession is an occupation founded upon specialized educational training, the purpose of which is to provide service to others for a direct and definite compensation. According to Ernest Greenwood in his article Attributes of the Profession, an ideal profession has 5 major characteristics. These attributes are satisfied by professional accountants, the reason why practice of accountancy is considered as a practice of profession. Systematic theory. The underlying theory of the public accounting profession consists of accounting theory, which includes financial accounting and reporting standards and practices, and auditing standards, which serves as the basis in the conduct of assurance and non-assurance engagements. These are the generally accepted accounting and auditing principles which have gained worldwide acceptance among practitioners and have substantial support of professional organizations and government authorities. So the GAAP are in the form of the IFRS, the ISA, and the IPSAS. Professional authority. Just like any other profession, the main reason for the use of service of a professional accountant is the lack of clients' understanding of their own needs. Thus, the basis of a CPA's authority is his expertise in the systematic theory of accounting and auditing. Community sanction. Not all persons are eligible to practice the accountancy profession. To become a CPA, a candidate must satisfy government educational and experience requirements and pass the CPA Licensure Board examination. In the Philippines, the Professional Regulation Commission to the Board of Accountancy is authorized by law to promulgate rules and regulations affecting the practice of accountancy profession. Regulations Code. Moral values and standards of conduct are important for the accountancy profession. These ethical standards help assess one's action as right or wrong, honest or dishonest, fair or not fair. The investors, management, public, government, and various organizations expect professionalism, high level of performance, and quality service from accountants. Thus, the Code of Ethics of Professional Accountants in the Philippines was developed. A culture. Accounting has developed a professional culture as evidenced by factors such as the formal norms of the Code of Ethics, the informal rules that guide relationships among practitioners, and the traditional myths that have arisen concerning CPA examinations. So now, let us know who is a professional accountant and briefly describe the scope of practice of a professional accountant in the Philippines. A professional accountant is a person who holds a valid certificate of registration issued by the Board of Accountancy. This professional accountant may belong to any of the following sectors. Professional accountant in public practice, which includes accountants employed in a firm that provides professional services like audit, tax, or consulting. Or professional accountant in business, which includes professional accountants employed or engaged in an executive or non-executive capacity in such areas as commerce, industry, service, public sector, education, the not-for-profit sector, regulatory bodies or professional bodies, or a professional accountant contracted by such entities. This may be grouped in any of the following subsectors: commerce and industry, education, and government. So again, there are two sectors to which a professional accountant may belong. These are public practice and business. Let us now briefly discuss the scope of practice within these sectors as provided in the Philippine Accountancy Act of 2004 or Republic Act 9298, Article 1, Section 4, Paragraphs A to D. First is the practice of public accountancy. So these are accountants who render accounting services on a fee basis and are engaged in public accounting. Professional services includes auditing, taxation, or consulting. They are involved in a public practice, and accountants may form partnership or join existing partnerships. Others are individual practitioners. So some examples of partnerships that provide accounting services in the Philippines are the Sisip Gores Bilayo and Company, or the SGB and Company, Navarro Amper and Company, Istalipana and Company, and RG Madabat and Company. So these are firms that are partners of the four biggest accounting firms in the world. Second is practice in commerce and industry. Accountants employed by a particular business firm or not-for-profit organizations are engaged in commerce and industry. So these are accountants employed by Smart Communication, SM, Globe Telecom as chief accountant, controller, internal auditor, or finance manager. Practice in education or academe. So this shall constitute accountants in an educational institution which involves teaching of accounting, auditing, management advisory services, finance, business law, taxation, and other technically related subjects. So we, CPAs in the College of Business and Accountancy, fall under the education sector. Lastly, practice in the government. These shall constitute accountants appointed or holding position in the government or in a government-owned and or controlled corporation and its instrumentalities. A large number of accountants are employed by the Commission on Audit, Bureau of Internal Revenue, local government units, or the national government. So those that render services to the government are engaged in government auditing. Let us now continue to the assurance, attest, and auditing services. So nowadays, professional accountants offer a variety of services, which ranges from assurance engagements to non-assurance engagements. Since our course focuses on auditing and assurance services, let us discuss the assurance services, attest services, and auditing services and its relationships. The relationship among audit services, attestation services, and assurance services is reflected in the figure. An assurance service is an independent professional service to improve the quality of information for decision makers. An attestation service, on the other hand, is a form of assurance service in which the CPA firm issues a written conclusion about an assertion made by a third party. While audit services are a form of attestation service in which the auditor expresses a written conclusion about the degree of correspondence between information and established criteria. So the most common form of audit service is an audit of historical financial statements in which the auditor expresses a conclusion as to whether the financial statements are presented in conformity with generally accepted accounting principles. So an example of an attestation service is a report on the effectiveness of an entity's internal control over financial reporting, and there are many possible forms of assurance services, including services related to business performance measurement, healthcare performance, and information system reliability. So who performs the audit? A person performing an audit is called an auditor. And Auditors are classified according to the following types. First, external auditors. External auditors have as their primary responsibility the performance of audits of the published historical financial statement of all publicly traded companies, most other reasonably large companies, and many smaller companies and non-commercial organizations. Because of the widespread use of audited financial statements, it is common to use the term CPA firms, independent auditor, or auditor synonymously. Second, internal auditors. Internal auditors are employed by individual companies to perform independent appraisal activity within the organization, such as review of accounting, financial, and other operations as a basis for service to management. To be an effective internal auditor, the internal auditor must be independent of the line functions in a company, but he cannot be absolutely independent of the company as long as an employer-employee relationship exists. Third, government auditors. So government auditors are those that are employed by government agencies. If they audit the agency that they employ, they may function as internal auditors. On the other hand, if they audit other government agencies and other entities, they act as external auditors. So the most common government auditors are those in the Commission on Audit and the Bureau of Internal Revenue. Lastly, we have forensic auditors, which are auditors employed by corporations, government agencies, public accounting firms, and specialized consulting and investigative services firms, and are specially trained in detecting, investigating, and deterring fraud and white-collar crime. So in addition to the most common type of audit service, which is the financial statement audit, we also have 4 other major types of audit: internal audit, compliance audit, operations audit, and forensic audit. So I have here a comparative presentation of the 3 other types of major audit, which are internal audit, compliance audit, and operational audit. So they are compared as to purpose, user of the audit report, nature, and who performs the audit. So as to the purpose, the audit of financial statement is done to determine whether the overall financial statements are presented in accordance with specified criteria, which is usually the PFRS. While compliance audit naman is performed to determine whether the client is performing or following specific procedures set by higher authority. And for operational audit, they are done to evaluate whether operating procedures are efficient and effective. As to users of audit report, audit of financial statement is for different groups or for different purposes, which are mostly those that are outside the entities. While compliance audit naman, the user are the authority setting down procedures, internal or external. While for operational audit, the users are the management of the organization. As to nature, audits of financial statements are highly standardized. Compliance and operational audits naman ay not standardized but specific and usually objective and highly non-standard and often subjective. As to who performs the audit, nakalay down din naman dyan whether the audit will be performed by CPAs, COA auditors, BIR auditors, or internal auditors. So let us proceed to the non-assurance services. Again, the engagement of CPAs may be assurance engagements or non-assurance engagements. So ano ba yung mga services that will fall under non-assurance services? So we have first agreed upon procedures. So agreed upon procedures, these are those in which the party engaging the professional accountant or the intended user determines the procedures to be performed, and the professional accountant provides a report of factual findings as a result of undertaking those procedures. So this is a non-assurance engagement. Second is tax preparation and planning services. So These are the services wherein professional accountants assist clients in preparing and filing tax returns, providing advice on tax and estate planning, and representing clients on tax issues before the Internal Revenue Service or tax courts. Third, management advisory services. So these services range from suggestions to improve the client's accounting system to computer installations. And lastly, compilation of accounting and data processing system service, which includes bookkeeping, payroll processing, and preparing financial statements. So I'll give you a trivia about the major types of services performed by CPAs. So the following are the mostly performed services by CPAs. Number 1 is the assurance services. Number 2, accounting and bookkeeping services. Number 3, tax services. And number 4, management consulting services.